Hello and welcome to the Tournament Center. Time for another Deck Tech. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm here with Jacob Van Lunen. Jacob is the Pro Tour San Diego champion. He's had some pretty good results in Limited. He's had some decent constructed decks as well. It was actually his Hollywood deck that a number of the team played. You've chosen to go with a brew this time, not your own design, but tell us about the deck.
Okay, Gabriel Nassif and Mark Herboltz made the deck, so I take absolutely no credit. I didn't have an extended deck last night, and Gabe's not playing today, so he told me I could play his deck. Very lucky for me.
And you're in contention too, right? You're sitting, as we record this, 11-4, I believe?
Yeah.
So a couple more wins.
Win the Pro Tour.
Still could.
Anyway, it's a Monoblue control deck. Its advantage over the 5-color fairy deck is that it takes a lot less pain from its lands. They have a pretty bad matchup against Domain
Yeah,
Zoo.
check out all the islands.
Against Domain Zoo, I do pretty well. I have Engineered Explosives, and I'm playing 3 Jitte main and 2 Threads of Disloyalty. I also have 2 Vedalken Shackles main, but those usually get sided out against Zoo because they bring in Ancient Grudge. So the extra Vedalken Shackles on the board is mostly for the Fairy Mirror, because it's the most powerful card.
Oh, interesting.
Also, the other fairy decks, their mana's not very good, so they can't afford to run Academy Ruins, and I have an extra one on my board, as you can see. So in the fairy matchups, you just board an extra Academy Ruins, and you can just force yourself to resolve Vedalken Shackles by continually putting it on top and trying to cast it. Because if Vedalken Shackles ever resolves, you basically win the Fairy Mirror. It's pretty much impossible to lose. So that's probably like the best type of deck.
It's Fairy Mirror, but not actually that many fairies in this deck, right?
Yeah, it's not really a fairy deck. It's a Monoblue control deck. The deck has 7 fairies, but they don't really have them. I'm not playing them because they're fairies. I'm playing them because they're good cards.
Okay. So you've got the Spellstutter Sprite to counter anything that costs 1.
Yeah.
If they've got expensive spells in their deck, I guess that's where Spell Snare kicks in?
Oh yeah, expensive spells. Like you have Spell Snare to deal with all the big fatty boom booms people are playing. You also have Mana Leak for like bigger spells like Mind Slaver and whatnot. For those types of decks, you have Annul on the sideboard also.
Okay.
Venser also is really good against decks that are trying to tap out and play huge things, because you can Venser it back to their hand, and then once you get up to 7 lands, you play 25 mana sources. You can just start Riptide Labbing the Venser back to your hand, and then just every time they try to play Mind Slaver or whatever, you just bounce the Venser back to your hand, counter it again.
So you feel pretty good about this deck? I mean, Gabe did reasonably well with it in Berlin, right?
Yeah, Gabe did really well in Berlin. He top 32 and he punted a couple matches. That's what he said. I'm not saying that.
Sure.
Gabe's a master. He's a million times better than me. But
And now there's several people in contention this weekend who've chosen this as well.
Yes.
You're running it.
Jamie Park.
Jamie Park's running it.
And Ben Rubin.
Oh, sure.
Is actually running it.
3 good players.
I didn't know until right now. So.
Now, do you feel anything you'd see that you would tweak, or?
I actually did tweak the sideboard a bit. They had some extra negates in the sideboard and Glenalandra Archmage. They said Glenalandra Archmage was for like the mirror and for Tron. I've been talking to a lot of people, and I didn't think there was going to be any Tron. And
oh, that's a good call. There basically is no Tron.
Yeah, there's basically no Tron, which is.
There was a lot of buzz about it beforehand, but nobody showed up playing it. So.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be a terribly underplayed archetype. I don't think people are just too afraid of decks that play Blood Moon, and people thought those were going to exist, which they don't really exist either.
Interesting.
So a deck that didn't exist scared away a deck that
didn't exist.
So
what you were expecting?
Yeah, what I was expecting happened. I added Annul to the sideboard.
Okay.
Again, for the Fairy Mirror, I can counter Vedalken Shackles. It's basically its purpose.
Now, what was the field that you were expecting then? Not Tron.
I was expecting mostly fairies. Second most played deck, I was expecting to be Zoo, and third most I expected to be Elves.
Oh, so you had Elves in third.
I had Elves in third. I think the actual numbers are fairies, Elves, Zoo. But
still,
like
pretty accurate.
Elves and Zoo are, I think, like within a percentage point of each other.
It's a pretty good read.
I called it pretty well, so I'm happy about that.
All right.
The deck crushes Elves.
Okay.
The deck's got like probably 60-40 against Zoo, and the deck is.
You like it in the mirror.
In the Fairy Mirror, like I have something they don't have, and the big problem is they sometimes have Ancient Grudge.
Okay.
But a lot of them have a shoot that now.
Okay.
For Crossing Grip, which is awesome for me.
So what's your bad matchup? What do you not want to shuffle up against?
Dredge. I don't think I could ever beat it in a million years.
Okay.
Also,
I don't like your chances. Well, against All in Red, I guess you can Echoing Truth out of the board.
All in Red's probably like a really good matchup, right? Because unless they have turn 1 Deuce, I can just like bounce their big threat back to their hands, and then like just start like gaining an advantage, like jumping with things until I tested. I was originally going to play All in Red, and I tested All in Red against this deck last night. Given like I maybe made some play errors, but I don't really know how many errors you can really make with All in Red.
Fair.
Anyway, tested it last night, and I just like he 8-2'd me with this deck. So
Okay. Playing against
seemed pretty bad. Steve Sadin.
Yeah, all right.
And
Decent player.
He's pretty good, but I mean, him 8-2ing me with all in red. Like
Yeah.
the only games I won were where I had a turn 1 deuce or like a turn 1 like empty for 10, and
There
he
you go.
didn't have an engineered explosive.
Sounds like a pretty good call for this metagame. Sounds like a deck. You're looking for a PTQ. If you think the field is elves, zoo, and more 5-colorish fairies, maybe worth checking out. We'll see how it does the rest of the weekend. Good luck, Jacob. Thanks
Thank
for
you very much,
chatting to us. For the Tournament Center, this is Randy Bueller.